A show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on GTV. This show is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Cyril B. Ramney Tertola Pier Park, NV Salon, Nail Spa and Barbershop, Tisley Cross Deliciously Smooth Cider, and Digicel, simply more speed, reliability and entertainment.
Tisley Cross Cider. Tisley Cross Cider. Deliciously smooth.
This is The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you so much for joining us for the edition that closes out this week. My guest today is one who's going to be sitting with us to do a little post-mortem of what we just celebrated at Festiville. And so you will guess my guest is none other than Miss Dirk Walters. Oh boy, you're shining and smiling.
Feeling good, feeling great, you know.
The tension was on for a couple of weeks or just about a month or so. But I could see that you made it through very well because there's no bags under your eyes.
No. Regardless of whatever it was, tense, maybe a little bit. Pressure doesn't bother me, you know. I'm accustomed of dealing with a lot of strenuous things and, you know, high stress level projects and things like that. So it's really nothing, you know. Whatever comes, we deal with it. We execute.
How you do that? How you really do that?
You just prioritize, you know, you manage your time properly. You take time to reflect, you know, you don't focus on the trivial things. And you push through, you do whatever you have to. I've done everything from being a messenger to a laborer to whatever it takes, you know. I chip in and roll up my sleeve and I help, you know. You put your team together and you respect one another, you make things happen. It's as simple as that.
You came in into a body that, you know, has always been under heavy scrutiny and criticisms. Yes, some praises in some instances, but you came in with a different approach, I dare say, because every individual is different and everybody's approach will be different. What is the one thing that you brought into this committee when you took over?
Well, the one thing I would say that I brought in, both myself and my vice chair, big up to Bartram, our whole approach is, you know, how we deal with persons, you know, how we approach things. My whole thing is we want to build on relationships, mend any broken relationships if possible, and take this thing to a level where our whole mandate and our whole vision is to take BVI Emancipation Festival and where it's respected and revered on the world stage. And we can't do that unless we mutually respect and work with one another, all the stakeholders, you know, everybody from the media to everyone involved, you know. So we just want to make sure that relationships, that we understand one another, that we communicate better, we strive for better communication going forward, and we just work together that there's as little fragmentation as possible within the committee as well.
All right. So the biggest talk out there is you did this, you guys, your committee, let me just put it right, because you couldn't do it alone.
Of course.
It was a committee.
Of course.
You did this with $500,000, not just for emancipation festivities, but it also catered for your budget of Easter Festival.
Yes.
The dynamics of that, help us understand. We clearly understand that, you know, a lot of costs would have been cut from not having a festival at East End or one at Carrot Bay.
Yes.
But still what we saw was major and successfully executed with a minimum budget.
Yes. Well, in terms of the budget, that was a subvention, of course, given by central government. On top of that, we were able to secure a little bit of sponsorship from our stakeholders, you know, friends in different industries, BVI Tourist Board being one of them, other companies and things like that. And also in terms of Easter Festival, there was a little bit of cushion. We had a little bit of money in the kitty, in the account that we could have done certain things with. So we just did our best. We sat down, a lot of strategic analysis, months of that went in, and basically, just having relationships with persons, because a lot of things are done without money. And that's why I always tell persons, relationships are the biggest currency on earth, because we were able to get a lot of things done based on relationships in certain industries and things like that, even without speaking money. So you sit down, you negotiate, and everyone, for the most part, more or less understood or understands where we are and why we are where we are. So we work together and we get things done. We shave off here, we shave off there. We look at things and say, listen, we need to approach this differently. So it's a learning experience along the way as well. And we know how to execute these things, of course, because myself and others in there, the vice chair and others, this is not a first rodeo. I've been in this industry my entire life. I was born and raised in this, basically, bought from the same way. We have other persons that have been in this industry and dealing with huge projects, executing these things, logistics and all of these things for years. So we sit down, we put our heads together, we have our think tanks, and we just do what we have to do. Of course, it came with tremendous challenges, and even us as a committee, we're not without our shortcomings, and I would admit that. There are a lot of things that I want for us to strive to do better at, of course, all of us. But we just do what we have to do, we execute, is because it's a bigger picture. You understand? I always tell persons, we're going to disagree, we're going to argue, we're going to have cuss outs here and there and whatnot, as we say, but it's about getting it done. It's about our culture, it's about us as a people, it's us as a community, as a country. It's bigger than any one of us. So we just focus on the task at hand, we get it done.
Okay, so a little bit of shaving. For some people, shaving and not having a festival at East End or Carrot Bay was big to them, not having a stage performance. I know for a fact that, because I've been down here to Carrot Bay, when we had the fun day, yes, there was a stage and we had some performances, but people would have loved to see, the big artists and the Festiville named after someone,
Okay.
and similar for East End. What were some of the dynamics that would have caused you to make such a decision to make that big move?
Well, early on, from even before myself and the vice chair got in there, those were talks that were being had even before we got there. So, you get together and you basically say, well, okay, how can we approach this here? And it became a general consensus because, it's a board, the executive body of Virgin Island Festival Affairs, it's a board. So I want to put that clearly out there as well, that some persons might think, Dirk is in there and he makes all these decisions. No, that's not how it works. It's a board. If something comes to a vote, it's majority rules. That's how it works, just like any other board, right? So it was a general consensus to do things a certain way. And, you get the buy-in of the different stakeholders and government, and everyone was for going that route. So that's what we did, by also continuing to make sure that there are activities happening in those areas, especially on the cultural aspect of it. So that's what we did, and it worked out really well. For the most part, everyone is, you can't please everyone, but I think it came together pretty well, given the constraints and the circumstances.
We saw it for East End, Michael pull off a mini parade, and the thought around that was that there was some way that the festival could have accommodated and have that a little bigger. What's your thought on that part?
Well, I know from the beginning we did say that we weren't going to facilitate having a parade in East End, obviously too, because we didn't have like the big stage as well up in East End, Longlook area, as well as Carrot Bay. So, persons have that right. If you have different community service organizations that want to get together and do things, they're free to do that, And going forward, we're going to try to see how we can best work with persons. But it was a situation where it was down to crunch time, and we just can't do everything to please everyone at the same time because budgetary constraint, and even more, a lot of persons think it's just money, right? And I'm here to say, time is the bigger issue, even more than money, because you can have all the money in the world if you don't have the time for planning and execution of these huge projects.
And the human resources.
Because like I said before, we have so many constraints. We don't have an office, we don't have stationery, we don't have supplies, it's a lot of different constraints. All of us are volunteers, by the way. From myself and everyone else included on the committee, all the different subcommittees, they're all volunteers. So persons are volunteering their own personal time, using their own personal devices, laptops. We basically work from not having anything, you know, so it's a lot of constraints, but we put our best foot forward and get things done.
And the bigger discussion that's out there right now, we even hear it from the level of the premier during the press conference recently, is the thought of maintaining one major festival, the heart of Road Town, and continuing to put other activities at the two ends.
Yes.
Is this something that you guys are really looking at going forward?
Yes, we consider different dynamics, of course, and different options going forward. It's a general consensus that for now, that should be the way going forward, that we keep everything centralized in
For
Road
now,
Town.
meaning like for another 2-3 years or so?
Well, I can't speak to how long it's going to be,
Okay.
you know, of course, and there are going to be varying opinions, and I'm not sure exactly how long I'm going to be in this capacity or even on a committee, so you never know what can transpire going forward. I can only speak for now, for myself. So that's my general feeling. I tend to agree with the Honorable Premier with that's the way we should go forward, at least at this time for now. And we'll see how it goes from there, because, you know, it's fluid. It's ever changing. So if we get to a point again where we can revisit certain things, of course, it's never anything where, oh, it's set in stone and that can never be changed again. You know, we weigh our options, the pros and cons, and see if it's feasible at any given time, because you never know what can happen.
How do you feel the test ideas?
In terms of
getting the general feel of the population,
Oh, okay.
whether or not we should go in this direction or not.
Well, what we do is like I say, we have our think tanks, and we sit down and we discuss these things. We ask for feedback. We actually hold meetings with different subcommittees and members of the public, you know, to get their feedback on these things. Okay, whether you speak to like booth owners, you have meetings with them, with vendors, your different stakeholders and members of the public, as I say, and okay, what do you think about this? Does this even make sense? And you have to be able to rate these things, you know, because if you look at something, if you can't measure something, then it makes no sense. How do you know how to go forward? So we will look and say, okay, well, maybe you try this here, and that necessarily does not mean that it was a bad idea, but maybe it wasn't for that time. You know, so we look at the different things, we weigh the pros and cons, as I said, and then we get the public feedback, and we do pay attention to everything, you know, whether, you know, persons go on the blogs, they leave their comments, persons would meet us on the street, and I'm very approachable. I'm on the road, I'm all around every day, all over the place. I don't hide from persons. So people meet me every single day and say, well, you know, I like what you did with this, I like your approach, but, you know, they give you the constructive criticism. Some persons do constructive criticism, and they say, I think you could do better by doing this, and, you know, I take notes. You know, I'll record it, and I take it to the executive committee and say, listen, we could look at doing this. So we're always open to different ideas and scenarios to see what we can do to we can't make everyone 100% happy, of course, all the time. And I don't think we ever will. And I don't think I'll ever try. But, you know, for the most part, we're open to ideas and always ready to do things in a more feasible manner that would benefit, you know, the community and everyone.
Do you think you were able to reach the wider cross-section of people in the distribution of your activities this year?
I think we did a pretty good job, as I said, given the constraints, that we were able to reach a lot of persons. Like, even in terms of, if you look at entertainment, like, you know, this is the Virgin Islands, of course, but we were able to provide entertainment that would cover a variety of persons, the whole cross-section. We are melting pot, so we covered everything from, of course, VI music, you know, soca, calypso. We were able to actually implement a little calypso review the same night with when we had the function with Destra.
Yes.
That was really great. I personally,
talk about that.
yes, I personally would have loved if we could have a full calypso competition. But once again, that had not just with us, but the planning. You got to understand that you have to have time.
Yes.
So as I said, a lot of the constraints was time, because given the green light to go ahead at the very last minute, so to speak, kind of put a little, you know, damp on things. So hopefully going forward that can happen. We were able to touch like Afrobeat, Latin, of course, the Fungi bands, the steel bands, you know, all. And for the first time, I'm very proud to say, not for the first time, but I think more than ever, we were able to focus on giving a lot of our younger entertainers and bands that opportunity to be on the big stage and on the road and things like that. And also, if you look like, for instance, our funland that we had on the village grounds, those were all local businesses that we sourced from. So that money gets to be stimulated and revolve in the local economy. So while it may not have been
the Coney
Island
that
we're accustomed to,
the money stayed.
Yeah, the money stayed here.
And the kids had fun.
And they had fun, of course. And I don't know why some persons were of the impression how they would ever think that we would plan a festival and not include the children. That is like absolute craziness to me.
I think what happened there is the timeliness and the dissemination of that information.
Yes, and I will say for sure, and I've said this in executive meetings, and we take full responsibility for this. The ball was dropped in certain manners in terms of enough marketing and promotion of certain things. I will admit that, as I said, I'm very honest and upfront about everything. And certain things fell through the cracks a little bit. We suffered a lot of losses where, for instance, we lost our PRO during the height of everything. So you could imagine the significant
setback
that we got from that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, not making any excuses at all. I'll never make excuses. But we can do better with certain things, communication, promotion and marketing. So we learn from a lot of things going forward. We're going to make sure all of these things, we already started planning for the ending of this year, even before we get into 2023. So we're going to make things better.
Are you satisfied that you would have catered enough for the elderly of our society?
The elderly, I still say we could have done more. As I said, there's certain things I would have wanted to see have been done that unfortunately weren't able to be done, as I said, but we did our best to cover and please everyone, and we'll do better going forward, definitely,
Going forward, one of the things that we've been hearing for a very long time, even before you got to that seat, is the need for the festival committee to go back to the place of fundraising.
Yes.
The talk is that you go to St. Thomas, you go to different places, and you can enter the village free of cost. One, because you would have secured a lot of funding from previous events that you would have held leading up to, and the two, corporates involvement.
Yes.
And so it makes it easier for persons to come, but now you will have a $25 or $30 or $40 more to spend with the vendors, not having to pay at the gate. Your take?
Well, that's a rationale put out there by a lot of persons. It's caused quite the stir, quite the debate amongst us, the community. And I mean, these things are attainable, but just remember, it's a trade-off. So if you want to enter the village free, because at the same time too, some vendors may feel they shouldn't pay to have a spot. Booth owners may feel they shouldn't pay to have a spot. If everyone enters the village free and everything is free, that money has to come from somewhere. That's a significantly higher budget. So, as you say, fundraisers are something that we're definitely working on. And like, for instance, the one night with Destra that was put on as a fundraiser, I can't speak to what was done before my time. Unfortunately, as I said, there were a lot of setbacks in terms of getting a green light, in terms of even legal issues with our appointments and things like that kind of was staggered, So we face a few obstacles, but definitely going forward, we have things in the works now where we actually forming an official fundraising committee, separately, where we can get stuff going on from now. Like right away, we immediately started planning. We already have a couple of meetings. So we're now trying to balance off everything, making sure everyone is taken care of, the finances, so we can make our official report and let the public know what we dealt with, have full accountability and transparency. And from there, we start planning going forward for Festival 2023, including Virgin Gorda and a lot of other surprises we have coming up. So the public is going to see a whole lot of different changes.
So we had two major taglines that we were running with during Festival. Trump is back.
Yes.
And we outside.
We outside.
Talk to me a little bit about Trump is back.
Yes. That was one of the things that we really pushed for, and we're very proud to see, because there was a concern. Some person was saying, oh, where y'all going with a Trump again? This generation, no, this era, they may not necessarily know what it is. And a lot of them don't know what it is. So we had to kind of explain that, but as you can see, it was a really great success. I'm very proud to see that it's something cultural. As I said, a tradition that goes way back to when I was a very, very young boy, even before that. and we were very happy to bring it back and actually give one of the younger bands, you know, the opportunity to go on the road so their peers and stuff could see them. And it was a really great experience for me, just standing and watching them out. I just smile, like even the nights when I go in the village, like persons don't understand, this takes such a toll on you, but when you see what comes out of it, it's worth it, you know.
Yeah, and you were even able to, at some instances, be on demand doing the thing that you love the most.
Yeah, you know, not as much as before, as I said, you know, but
you were on stage.
yeah, on stage I did my little thing, you know. Because of course I do have a group that's out there still relevant and actively playing music all year round, so I had to make sure I deal with that and try to balance the whole thing. But you know, something I'm accustomed to. I enjoy it, you know, is what I do, is my passion. So I was elated. I'm still elated to be able to do it, and I want to definitely thank everyone that supports myself and my group members on a year-round basis. It's my pleasure, you know, to be able to still contribute. It's such an awesome, incredible feeling.
How soon can we see or hear of a financial report?
That's going to be coming within the next couple of weeks, for sure. We actually already started working on it. So once we receive the various reports from all the different subcommittees and we put all the financials together, then that will be made public, of course.
Awesome. And Derek, in wrapping up this, what is it that one thing you would love to say to the general public, having seen us through another festival? Are we outside festival?
Yes, we outside. We outside. I just want to say to the general public, thank you so much. Most of all, thank you so much for being on your very best behavior.
Yes, incident free.
Yes.
Incident free.
I heard about a couple of little things, but it wasn't directly even involving like festival events, you know. But I want to say to everyone, the public, you are our biggest stakeholder in this, and I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. The rest of the committee thanks you. Thank you for supporting. We've been through so much from Orma through COVID up till now, but we outside right now, and so we outside.
And we want to stay outside.
We want to stay outside, so thank you for drinking responsibly. Thank you for coming out, supporting all of the events. I had a tremendous time. It warms my heart really to see so many of you coming out in full support in those large numbers. It's been an incredible journey. We're still working on things. We know we still have a lot of work to do. I don't ever take that lightly, and we're going to push forward. So look for really great things going ahead, you know.
Yeah. Derek, I want to thank you so much for taking time out to do this.
It's always my pleasure. Always my pleasure.
Yes, and again, convey our gratitude to your entire committee. We are one BVI.
Yes, of course.
And we outside.
We outside. That's right.
We're not out of the woods. We're waiting on the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization to tell us that part. I want to thank you so much for taking time out to join us here on The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards.